And welcome to this edition of Inside the Program, brought to you by InsideTexas.com. I'm your host, Justin Wells. With me, as always, Eric Nalin, managing publisher at InsideTexas.com. Hey, it's Friday, and what we always do is we go inside the program. But first, what I need you to do is like our video and subscribe to the YouTube football channel. We're climbing towards that 8,000 mark. The fans and the community have been tremendous. Come see us. Come hang out with us. Also, at InsideTexas.com, we're running a promo, IT1. Will get you 2 months for only $1. That gets you through May. All the recruiting visits or the spring evaluations. It gets you into June, the official visits. It gets you into everything when the summer workouts start out. Guys, you got to come see us at InsideTexas.com. There really isn't a better time. Eric, good morning.
Good morning.
You know, we talked a lot about the Longhorns during spring football, and we talked about a lot of guys. But I felt like today there were 5 guys we didn't talk enough about. Guys that did make an impression, guys that did solidify a spot in the rotation, guys that really kind of are starting to ascend up the depth chart. And so today that's what we're going to tackle. We're going to talk about 5 guys that we think didn't get enough love. And we're going to start off on the offensive side of the ball with one guy that I felt, we talked about in pre-production, and he could kind of turn into a leader in that room. And that's DeAndre Moore, wide receiver. Last year, 3 guys get drafted: Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, Jordan Whittington. But honestly, Whittington was the leader in that room. The old man, the vet, he kind of set the tone. DeAndre Moore is taking on some of that, is what we're hearing. And so why haven't we talked enough about DeAndre Moore, and what are kind of some of his expectations we need to now know about going into the summer?
Well, we haven't talked about it enough because there's so many new toys, right? Everybody was talking about Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden, and Jonte Cook is always going to take up a bunch of oxygen in that room. But there's a leadership vacuum in that room with the departures of those 3, especially Jordan Whittington in that regard. And DeAndre Moore is definitely taking up that mantle, I would say. And he's still a little young, doesn't have the experience out on the field. You always want some experience on the field before people really start paying attention to what you have to say. But I asked the source in the middle of the spring, who's going to block like Whittington, and DeAndre Moore was the first person mentioned at that slot receiver, which you got to have. That guy's on the move and out in space quite a bit, making you might make that block that springs Jaden Blue for an 80-yarder. You never know. Yeah. But I asked on a scale of 1 to Jordan Whittington how good of a blocker is. I heard an 8. So if Jordan Whittington's a 10, 8's pretty dang good. So. We probably do need to talk more about Moore, and we'll do that. We'll pay a little closer attention to him in August.
Yeah, that room is full. You said it. New toys, Ryan Wingo. There's a lot there. But DeAndre Moore, that's a guy that when Arch Manning came in, enrolled early last year, that's a guy that was working. He was working out with, privately. Yeah. They were doing throwing sessions. DeAndre's a smart guy. He attached himself to the right signal caller coming into that class. The next guy I want to talk about is another pass catcher, but he's a little bit closer to the O-line, and he's a guy that's replacing some pretty big shoes, and that's Gunnar Helm. And obviously we don't talk a lot about Gunnar, even though because he's really just solid. There's not a lot to his game you don't like. I mean, he does everything pretty well. And then he came on the Third and Longhorn podcast and really kind of opened up, and you got to kind of see another side of Gunnar. And he's a guy that he wants to be the guy now. He wants to step up. He wants to be all conference, and he wants to play in the league. And I don't think people, give him enough credit for that. Gunnar Helm, why is he a guy we didn't talk enough about this spring, Eric?
Well, I've always liked Gunnar coming out of high school. He had some footage out when he came out of high school. He's doing a backflip at 6'5", 230. He's hitting a golf ball about as beautifully as you can for somebody that big. You're like, okay, there's some weird coordination here. There's some explosiveness to him. And then you see it on the field, like, okay, yeah, he's a talented player. I think the NFL has kind of blurred us to what we expect out of a tight end. Like they're supposed to be all these freaks. 6'7", 6'6", running down the seam, moving like wide receivers. You can actually have
looking guys.
Yeah. You can actually have a really good NFL career by just being a good blocker and good receiver and being where you're supposed to be at the right time, being smart when you see zone coverage, knowing where to squat down, and just finding those open spaces. I think Gunnar Helm has that. And then when Sark does scheme him open, like we saw in that touchdown last year, he's going to take advantage of. He's got enough athleticism to take advantage of. He's a good player. It was funny. 2 years ago, I heard that they thought he was an NFL player, and I think he's right on to become that. Not going to be drafted in the first couple rounds, but I think he's going to carve out a good career. He's solid. There's no holes in his game.
And the thing with Helm too is there's so many other weapons in this offense. Helm is going to get some freebies. He's going to get some open opportunities where everyone's focusing on the bigger guys, the faster guys, the bigger names. And Gunner's going to spring forward. He's going to do some stuff kind of like he did against OU last year. Let's move in even a little bit closer. Now, this guy doesn't catch passes, but he is essential because he touches the ball every single snap on offense. Why haven't we talked enough this spring about Jake Majors? And I'll even preface it with, are we taking Jake Majors for granted? Because I know everyone else, Kelvin Banks, DJ Campbell, Cam Williams at right tackle, Connor, musical chairs. Jake Majors is the solid, consistent guy in this bunch. Why haven't we talked about Jake enough?
I don't think anybody's taking him for granted after the OU game last year. I think everybody started to appreciate him a little bit more. He was kind of a whipping boy there for a while. Texas fans always have their guy that they're going to complain about. Jake Majors was that for a while. Christian Jones was it for a while. We just saw him get drafted pretty high. Jake has just been there forever. We talked about that before the show. It's like, people don't like to talk about players that are known commodities. They always want that shiny new toy. But Jake is called the second best offensive lineman on the team this spring, at least by one of my sources. Obviously, Kelvin Banks number one. Jake is just steady, and he's a leader in that room. And fans always, they underrate leadership. Leadership is a huge part of building a team. It's part of the culture that Sark always talks about. And Jake is the guy in that room. We want him to stay healthy because behind him, there's still questions. They'd have to move. I mean, I guess Hayden Connor could play there. Cole Hudson could play there. But we saw that when Jake Majors is off the field, the level of play drops pretty obviously. So he's just a good, solid player. That guy, he's going to end up in a training camp in the NFL. I don't know if he's going to get drafted. Maybe he's got a chance to get drafted 5th, 6th, 7th, but he's going to be in an NFL training camp. Solid player, smart player, good leader.
Yeah, guys that can play center like that, they've got a spot in the NFL. They usually get to hold the bucket for a while. Let's go over to the defensive side. And, after we were catching up a little bit with sources recently, we wanted to figure out a guy we weren't talking enough about on that defensive side. And to me, it's Barron Sorrell. This is a guy that's been so consistent. He's gotten better incrementally. Every season, he adds a little bit more to his game, to his repertoire. He's he wasn't the highest rated guy, and he came in with the highest rated work ethic. Big time contributor, good in that locker room. Why are we talking about that man, Barron Sorrell, enough, and how valuable the edge position has grown? We've seen it with Ethan Burke as ascension, Trey Moore, Colin Simmons. Why is Barron Sorrell the guy we didn't talk enough about this spring?
Well, he's not flashy. He's that workman-like guy, the lunch pail guy, the hard hat guy. If John Madden was still around, that's what he'd call him. That's like you mentioned, he came into the program that way. He's got that work ethic. We knew early on he was one of the guys we heard about. Hey, this guy's going to be a good player just because he's got the frame and the build, but the way he works. Now, he's not a flashy pass rusher, and that's why I think he kind of goes under the radar to some degree. But I had a source call him one of the 10 best players on the team, and I don't think people, even you and I, we don't talk about him like he's one of the 10 best players on the team. No. And he's just steady, good against the run, good against the pass. Not a bend. He's not an arc runner or a bendy guy, but he motors his way into plays in the backfield. He just works really hard. He's smart, and he's a leader in that room too. We always talk about leadership. We always talk about the mental eval, and that's where he hits 10 out of 10 in those regards.
Our last guy we really had to go into, and this was a hat tip to our boy Joe Cook. He's the special teams guru at Inside Texas.
Somebody has to remind us about special teams, right?
Yeah, somebody has to. I don't want a phone call from Jeff Banks because we're not covering the third phase of football enough.
I wish Banks would call us up. He knows everything.
That's a good point. Bert Auburn, Sideshow Bob. Listen. This guy, if you're not talking about the kicker, you got a good kicker. Yeah. I really feel like that's kind of the thing with Auburn. He's been clutch. He was really good last year. He's like Sorrell. He's gotten a little bit better each time. The man has a Goldman Sachs NIL deal. He knows what he's doing, and he's got a chance to kick on Sundays as well. I can tell you why we don't talk about Auburn enough in the spring because he's a kicker and we take it for granted. Or have we? I mean, Bert Auburn's a guy that I think is going to be clutch when you need a guy for 13, 14, potentially 15 games in the 2024 schedule.
Well, hopefully 17 games, Justin. I don't know what Texas Longhorns you're covering next year. I'm trying to cover 17 games.
I forgot about the additional playoff to the playoff to the playoff.
Sounds like you're going to take January off. No, Bert. Bert, he's good between the 40s and in the 40s, right? And that's where you need. That's the money yardage right there, because outside of it, they're probably going to go for it or they're going to punt it.
Yeah.
And he's just good. I feel bad for Bert because he's made some of the biggest damn kicks in Texas Longhorns of this century, and it just didn't go to wins, right? He had a huge one against Alabama. He had a huge one to tie it up against Texas Tech, and then Texas lost that one on the road in overtime. He had another one that was really big that didn't go, that didn't register like it should have. He's just such a good kicker. A lot of people are like, hey, why is he not on scholarship? Like, I wish he was on scholarship. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's paying for his schooling. He's getting taken care of. He's a good kicker. He's clutch. He's well liked behind the scenes for sure. But man, remember all the questions coming into 2022. Do they have a kicker? What's going to happen there? And he just started nailing them left and right. And what I really like about that guy, you can tell he's got mental toughness because he started off a little slow this past season. And when a kicker has issues, you don't know when it's going to just be gone forever. Like it could be like golfer putting, or Chuck Knobloch throwing to first base. Once it's gone forever. He just regrouped, started nailing them again, man. He's just a good, solid kicker. Texas is lucky to have him.
Absolutely. And that's why we wanted to do this segment, because we know that there's so many guys we talk about on a regular basis at InsideTexas.com and on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel. We really wanted to dig in this week on 5 guys we didn't talk enough about to make sure those guys. I know one guy we talk about a lot, and there's a reason for that, because he's clutch. We talk about this guy in the spring, in the summer, the fall, and the winter, and that's Andre the Lawyer. Listen, whenever you're in trouble, you've got to call this guy. He is a trusted Longhorn that has been helping guys forever. Anytime you get into trouble, getting a workplace accident, a slip and fall, a wrongful death, car accidents, you name it. Whenever you get in trouble, please be sure and give Andre the Lawyer a call. 214-444-8808. Andre is there to help you at any time in any way. You hate to be in that position, but hey, this is a guy he's gonna take care of you. So be sure and give Andre the Lawyer a call if you're ever getting stuck. 214-444-8808. One more segment, and this is something you and I are kind of starting to look forward to a little bit more every day. Yeah. The On3 Elite Series in Nashville. And so to let the cat out of the bag, Eric Nahlin and Justin Wells are going to be in Nashville for the On3 Elite Series. There's way too much talent converging in Tennessee, and way too many Texas targets with relevant stuff going on. And so we're going to go through just a couple of these kind of quick, rapid fire, just to give Texas fans the expectation when we get there, it's going to be big. There's a lot of talent heading to Nashville. DeCorian Moore, Kalik Lockett, Jamie French. Those are just the wide receivers. Yeah. That's the pass catchers. And if you know Texas big board, that might be 1, 2, and 3 on their big board as well. And so that's big. On the defensive side, you got some DBs in Dory and Brew, who you went and saw at Conroe a couple weeks ago. Jonah Williams, who I caught up with last night, whose brother was actually committed to Texas at one point.
Oh, man, hold on a sec. Now I'm a fan here. I didn't know you caught up with Jonah last night. How'd that go?
It went well. I reached out to a handful of the guys that all got invited to the On3 series just to kind of say, hey, congratulations. We're going to be there. I can't wait to see you again. Kind of a little check-in that I do with all these guys. And we were talking, and Jonah's like, my brother was committed to Texas at one point. And I thought, all right, that's another angle. But he's doing well.
I've got an overnight trip next week to do some reconnaissance on that recruitment. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, he's a stud. I'm glad to see Texas back in the mix on that guy because first of all, the internal evaluation on that guy, they think he might be the best player in the state, and he's a great kid. Great kid, great family,
big competitor. And as we've always said, he's a baseball kid. So this recruitment is going to be a legit 2-sport pursuit. Lance Jackson, Texas commit. He's going to be there. Was in Texarkana this week. Got to talk to him just for a few minutes. He's excited. You know what the biggest thing going on with Lance? He was the best man last weekend for his brother's wedding. Landon Jackson got married, Eric. And I was texting with Landon during the week. I was saying, you're all grown up and stuff now, man. Congratulations. So Lance is going to be there. Michael Fasusi, number one offensive tackle prospect on the big board. He's going to be there. And you and I both know Michael Fasusi, there's not a trip that he doesn't love. He will take he will take any official visit you give him. But I think two other guys that I think are going to make it a little interesting. KJ Lacey, Keelan Russell. What's that going to be like when we get those two side to side, back to back, and we get to talk about what the Texas class of 2025 at quarterback might look like?
Yeah, man, I don't know how Sark navigates. I don't know how Sark navigates any of these quarterback issues. It's just so difficult. I'm interested to see how that plays out. I was talking to a college coach the other day, and he was just raving about Keelan Russell. He knows he's not going to get him. He wants him, but Keelan's profile has risen too much. It's going to be interesting. But it's further interesting is that college coach has seen KJ Lacey twice. He recruited him at his previous stop. Obviously wasn't going to get KJ, but he said, Sark is trying to recreate Bryce Young. That's what he's doing with KJ. He said, KJ's not exactly Bryce, but he's a very good, he's a fairly close approximation. And so that it was interesting talking to that college coach that has pretty keen insight on both those quarterbacks. He didn't really say he had a favorite, but he's definitely all in on trying to get Keelan, even though it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and that's the fun part of being able to go up to Nashville and getting to see these guys. We really do appreciate On3 for putting these on. And the best part about the On3 series is there's a running back target named James Simon out of Calvary Baptist in Shreveport, and Texas is in good shape for him right now. We could see something coming up pretty soon, I felt like, with that recruitment, and I could see that tying in with that On3 Elite Series as well. Hey, we're going to have finished with one more segment. Where are they now? And Eric and I have been doing this long enough to where now
why does he have DeAndre Moore here? It's DeAndre McNeil, you goofball. We already talked about DeAndre Moore.
See, that's why we
we're finessing. Now we're finessing.
Got to finesse it. Yeah, that wasn't finessing. Joe wasn't finessing, but he fixed it. He got the save. He didn't Josh Hader this.
We need Homer. Oh, don't bring up Josh Hader. We need Homer back.
No. Well, one or the other. Either way, we have relationships with a lot of these older recruits that went on to play in the league or became adults. They have families. They have kids. DeAndre McNeil, finessing. Did you ask him the most important question I could think of? Are you still waiting for that first touch at Notre Dame?
Oh, man. Yeah, he was getting peppered with questions. First of all, I didn't know he was coming out. And so he showed up. I had not seen him since Malik's draft night. What was that, 2018? I don't know. It was a long time. So he finally grew into those shoulders. I always told him he was going to be a linebacker. He's big. He's not out of shape, but he's a big guy. He just moved back to Dallas from Florida. He's general manager at Echo Park car sales place. And I actually bought a car from Echo Park one time. It was pretty easy. So if you're looking for a car, go see DeAndre. But it was funny, he's not the kid that we saw back in the day. He's sitting there eating sushi with a glass of red wine. I'm like, it's just funny how time flies, man. I never would have thought I'd be sitting there watching DeAndre with a glass of red wine and some sushi. It was pretty funny, but he's doing great. Happy to be back in Dallas around his family again. And it was just good to see him.
Yeah, DeAndre was always a good kid. That was a fun recruitment. Those are memories we're going to have for the rest of our lives. And DeAndre was, he took it in stride. He kept fighting. He kept looking for a spot, and you got to give that guy credit. And so, also plugging his car dealership. That's big time. But that's what we do.
Go see DeAndre McNeil at Echo Park. We might have to get him on at some point. He's a fun guy to be around.
Yeah, because I promise you, he has a few Charlie Strong stories that I think would resonate very well on this platform. So, guys, please keep watching and paying attention, because sometimes we'll bring people in and out that you never know, and they'll have some of the best stories. Lastly, this is fun. We talked about who we didn't mention enough in spring. We talked about the On3 Elite Series, and then where are they now? The major thing we want to talk about, come see us at InsideTexas.com. We really are having the best time. The momentum is real. There's so many new things going up each day. We've been on the road like crazy this last week, killing it. I want to say Inside Texas staff hit as many as 13, 14, maybe 15 schools this week. It was a tremendous content event. And so you got to come see us at InsideTexas.com. IT1 will get you 2 months of Inside Texas for only $1. IT1. So come see us. And also, please like the video. Subscribe to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel. Like I said, we're climbing to 8,000. Keep helping us get there. We can't wait to see where we're going to be in the summer. We can't even wait in the season into August and in the fall. 2024 is going to be a lot of fun for Texas fans. This is the time to get in right now and get with it. Eric, as always on Fridays, always a pleasure to hear your voice, see your face. I'll see you again at the same time, same place next week. And thank you to all the viewers for joining us and making us a part of your day on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.